All right. Hey there, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Xamarin Code Hour, which used to be called the El Pritchard Code Hour, and then before then was called the El Pritchard Show, and I think we're going to stick with this for a little while, at least until I change my mind again and maybe get into some 3D printing or something completely off the wall that I'm really excited about because I'm doing something else. But for right now, I'm going to do at least one more episode of the Xamarin Code Hour. Please weigh in the comments if you'd like to see other content, because I'm doing some kind of fun stuff with laser cutting and engraving and etching right now, and that might be a fun show in and of itself, sort of like intro to 3D printing. Sound good? Maybe? Let me know on Twitter or in the show notes on YouTube. Now, last episode, we ended up doing images, and we were doing SVG images, and we were doing vector images. We were doing the vector ones in Android, and we were doing the raster ones in iOS, and we left things in this okay but not great state. Basically, Android was rendering the SVG images, but it was rendering them all weird. So I actually spent just like a couple more minutes after the show fixing it up, and if I'd realized how little effort it was, I probably just would have done it during the show and let it go on a little bit long. But let me show you the couple minor changes that I made, and then we'll get into the show. Okay, and so tonight's show is going to be basically cleaning up and getting things ready to do more fun stuff, but I do want to at least touch on tinting. I think tinting is going to be really fun. We'll do a sort of a follow-on to images, and that's where you take an image, either raster or vector, and iOS and Android can change the color at runtime. And that's a really handy technique if you want to do like a mouse over effect, but you don't want to have two separate images where you have a version of it which is red and a version of it which is white. So you get that white mouse over or tap down. I guess there's no mouse over on mobile, right? But if you want to get that effect, you can do that with tinting. It's a wonderful feature, and it's super handy, and there's different ways to do it in iOS and Android. And I'll hope to get to that tonight, probably towards the end of the show. So there's a little teaser for you. Hopefully it's a teaser. All right, let's get into where we left things last time. So, I'm actually running. I'm starting things up. This was where we left things almost last time. We were trying to put in an image here, and I guess first off the bat, we do have to, well, I'll show you what I did, but we do have to change that to a button. That'll be like one of the very first things we do. And so this is where we're at. It's blue because I was fiddling around and trying to just make sure that it was rendering correctly, and it is, I guess it's rendering well enough. We can get rid of that. What I did do after the show, if we run source tree, you'll see that this was our file here where we were saying, I want this path data to be 2,229. So in the x coordinate, it would be just over a tiny little bit, and 29 is halfway down because it's it's an 80 by 80 image. Again, in raster world, 80 pixels is just relative. It's just a random number. It happens to be about 50%, 29, but that's the relevant part. The 29 numbers, all those get expanded out. Anyway, but here was the bug, and that was, it said, go over to the right 56, so that's almost to the way to the right-hand edge, and then it had said, comma 0. Well, 0 is up at the Y 0 is way up at the top of the screen, so that's why we were ending up with this weird angled bar on there, and that's just the way Inkscape exported it. If you do Adobe Illustrator, it doesn't make these kinds of weird export mistakes, but yeah, that's just how it is. Sometimes you got to go in and fiddle with it. So, but the result is very nice. And so I just hand coded 29.002176. I don't really care what the number is. I was just taking the same number over here. And then I think, did I have to do anything over here? Let's see. I guess I do one more piece of fiddling, and I don't even remember what that is. Oh, that's where the dot was. So the second dot ended up being 29, 14, which would have been 30 is, it would have been right in the middle and up at the top end. Oh, the two dots were overlapping each other. So it needed to be at 45 down here. And so to end up with the bar 40. So yeah, just some filling that needed to get done. And that did end up, just making those two little changes ended up rendering like that. It's big. We can make some adjustments. Let's do that now. But wait, we can do that now. So we got rid of the background color, and well, let's do this. Let's change this out. We want this to be a button. So image view was fine for fiddling around, but what we really want is there's another control in here called like a button image, or an image button or something. Image button. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. And let's do that instead of the image view. And this is what we used to have, so we can get rid of, well, we're hard coding this. What do you think? Should we bold and see what happens if we just put these back to what we actually want them to be, which is a wrap content and a fill parent? Let's try it. Let us try and see. I'm gonna F5. I think I warned you all last time that you get these warnings that says this source compat attribute is not declared, and there's really no good fix. You can like disable all those types of warnings on the page, but it's a little heavy-handed. So, you know, you just live with a source compat warning there, and that's fine. That's the exact complaint someone had on. Okay, hey, that's good. That was the exact complaint someone had on that site that everyone uses, Stack Overflow. So that is a button, and it actually, I don't know if you can tell there, but now it has that nice Android effect, the sort of standard effects you get with buttons in Android, and that looks pretty nice, but it is too big. So how do we make that smaller? If I were smartly, I would probably have researched this before the show and have an answer for you, but I didn't. So let's try and figure it out. We want to probably make this, let's try putting in padding. Is there a padding? Android. Let's try putting in a padding of, and I think you can do like 10, 10, 10, 10, or maybe just 10. Probably what we want. I don't know. What do you think? Will that make it better? This wonderful little button here, Control Shift F5, and I love that button. And I guess I should learn the keyboard shortcut, but it wants DPs. Guarantee you it wants DPs. But when you hit that button and you have it do a restart from when it's already running, it's the equivalent of hitting stop and start, but it's usually a little bit faster, and if you don't make any changes whatsoever to your program, it doesn't do it skips the recompile entirely, and it just redeploys, which is a lot faster on mobile, and it's kind of a nice feature. I could be wrong about that, but it feels faster, and that's worth something. I don't know. That doesn't look any smaller, does it? That does not look smaller to me. Let's try padding of 20. I think we can be fairly confident this is not going to work. So let's do a Google search, and while this is running and we're seeing if that's going to do anything, we're going to say image button, source compat, and we're going to say specify image size. How to set adjusting the size of an image button in Android. source. I want the button. No, I want to specify. Nope. Title is yep. Okay. You should be able to use the set image resource. Okay, well, that's an option. First you're dealing with is not a normal image view. Yep, we know that. So you can use set image resource. How did this turn out, by the way? That didn't fix it. Gah! Okay, all right. So fit the image in an image button in Android. Oh, how do I set the height width of the source image? That is exactly what I want. You can use the scale type attribute. Set it to XY fit or fit center or anything else according to your need. I don't think that's exactly what I was... This does not answer the question. The question was asking a way to set the size. Instead of the whole, yes, that's correct. You can use bitmap.createScaledImage to scale. Oh, okay, I think we might need to switch to code behind then. All right, let's do that. So what we're going to do here is try and do this in code, and that's cool. We'll learn something. I'll learn something. That's worth something. Something to be learned is always worth something. Now, what's the right lifecycle event to put this in? Probably, if I was in iOS, I would say view did appear, but I think on resume might be the right place to put it. Let's see, on resume, on create. Ooh, on create is probably better. Okay, and we already have a startup services view model. Oh, that's not a good place for that. Oh yeah, implement a splash screen. Okay, view model. Okay, we don't care about set content view, get views, and maybe it's in get views, and this will be when we initialize it, I betcha. We want the divide, and we're not even retrieving that right now. So this would be, find view by ID, and this is an image button, or button image, I always get that wrong. Resource.id.divide, and we'll call that divide. Seems like a reasonable name for divide button, and we are going to, what was that? I'm going to bring back this here. You can use bitmap.createScaledBitmap to scale the image to the size you want. That's close, except we don't want a bitmap so much as we want the raster image. So I think before we even do that, we want set source compat programmatically. How to set the image button property of source compat. The title says that. Yep. You need to use the set image resource. First, you're dealing with an app compat image view, not a normal image view, and so then you need to use set image resource. Well, we could try and just see what happens. It's not actually solving the problem of how to scale it, but we'll learn in the process. I'll learn how to... and notice, by the way, in all of the documents, anytime you're doing any looking around on the internets, they will always tell you to do, in Android world, it's r.drawable. In Xamarin world, it's resource. Actually, it's drawable.divide. And yeah, well, if that works, we will now, we've gotten rid of source compat there, and this should just give us exactly what we had before. So we'll have what we had before, but we'll have done it programmatically. And often once you switch to doing things programmatically, you've got a lot more control. In fact, to tell you the truth, a little secret, I hate XAML. Or the AXML. I used to really like AXML, but I've switched to disliking it enormously because you don't get things like inheritance. You don't get it. Just you lose a lot of the beautiful things that you can do in an object-oriented language, and that you know, anyone who's hearing me say this will probably say, but Lee, it's got this beautiful separation of UI from implementation, and that's true, and that is absolutely true. But it is so nice. There we go. Good. It's so nice. You can still get that separation, and it's just so nice to have so much more control when you're in code. And this is a good example. Okay, so we have gotten our set image resource to divide, and this person was saying we should say app-compat image view. App-compat image view IV equals, yeah, we've got our image view, we've set it, and now we wanted to do what this person had said, which was create scaled bitmap. No. Maybe we can create scaled bitmap Android and vector 4. Creating a scaled bitmap with a, I don't think this is going to be what we want. Nope. Okay. Vector images, create scaled bitmap vector. Oh, one of these is going to be good. R dot drawable. Well, we could try just bitmap.create scaled bitmap. Let's try it. Let's see what we can do. Bitmap Android.graphics dot. Maybe we want to new it up. Can we new it up from the resource? In pointer Java resource. No, we can't. Set image resource. How about this? Let's do set image resource Android width. Ooh. Set image resource and set layout parameters. No, all of these are affecting the control itself. And what I want is for them not to affect the control. I want these for them to affect the how to get the height. No, how to set height width of an image button image. Okay, so we are, yeah, scale type fit XY. That's cool. We probably do need that because fit XY is probably going to tell it that we want to control it ourselves. And now you can do it from code via params. Android.view.viewGroup.layout params equals button.getLayout params. Play video.set layout params. I don't think this is going to work, but probably your problem lays not in code but in layout. I see you're using don't think that's going to work. But it seems the set max height doesn't even work. So how do I set the image button's dimension? You will need to use the scale type to have it resize to fit. No, I don't want it to resize to fit. I want to have this isn't going to work, this isn't going to work, and this isn't going to work. Okay, how about this? Android convert vector to bitmap. Getting bitmap from VectorDrawable. Ooh, this is it. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay, I'm not even gonna think. I'm just gonna copy and paste some code, and it's just gonna be amazing. Yeah, context compat dot get drawable dot drawable. Okay. Dot SDK int is lollipop. Yeah, good enough. Then drawable compat dot probably wrap dot mutate. Yeah, I want that. All right, we're going to create a bitmap with the drawable dot probably intrinsic width, and we're going to get the intrinsic height, which is probably just intrinsic height, and then connectivity dot argb88. Yeah, I definitely want 8888, because you know what else would you use? Dot width dot height drawable dot draw canvas equals new canvas bitmap drawable dot intrinsic height. I don't want the intrinsic height is the only thing. I think I want to be able to specify my height and width. So this is not going to be what I want. Because, for example, the width, this should be like a parameter width in, guarantee you this is going to be in px, and this will be height in px. And I'm going to alt enter and create a parameter width in px, and yep, and then this create height in px. Okay, and now let's just see if this works, and then we got to figure out how to convert pixels to a DP. We have DPs that we want to think in, and we want to be able to convert them to pixels, so we'll figure that out later. For now, okay, close. This is get bitmap from VectorDrawable. God, I love the internet. I mean, that has to be right? Okay, and the context will be context, or this, one or the other, and then yep, that's the resource ID, and the width we want is, let's do something kind of smallish. Let's do 30, and see what we get. No? All right, this. This is a perfectly good context in any given situation. So get the bitmap from the VectorDrawable is bitmap, right? And then I ought to be able to set the image resource. Divide dot set image bitmap. Ooh, bitmap. Perfect. And let's not spend time making it perfect. Okay, I'm gonna hit F5. Wow, this is you chewed up half of the show, and if I'd just done a little bit of research beforehand, maybe it would have taken up less. But that is kind of the point of the show, right? I just want to learn as I go, and hopefully you all are going to chime in and tell me better ways of doing things. You know, when I do a presentation at a code camp or something like that, I will usually do a lot more prep work, and the whole idea of this is less prep work. Isn't that an interesting error? So, oh, and I am so sorry. 225. Someone once upon a time asked me to zoom in, so I'm zooming in. Unhandled exception. Android.content.res.resources not found. So the resource ID/divide is not a drawable. And maybe that's I can't even imagine. It found the right thing, but it not being a drawable is insane, because it is most certainly a drawable. If I go into, I passed in the wrong value, didn't I? Oh, see, you guys got to tell me this stuff. I passed in resource.id.divide, and it should have been resource.drawable.divide. Nice catch, Richardson. All right, this is going to work now. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be something. Wouldn't call it amazing. Is that because of the scale? Image button dot scale type FedXY? Maybe we want scale type to be center? I feel like FedXY would have been the right thing to do. Oh, maybe it was the padding. That could have been the problem. I hit F5, I swear I did. Okay, it's building. You can tell from this tiny little icon down here. Sometimes I wish there was something a lot more obvious in Visual Studio to let you know that you're building, because it's such an important thing that you do, and yet it's such a subtle notification. Okay. It's like we are stretching it, right? It's like we're stretching it in a really weird way. Let's get rid of the padding. Let's try increasing the size to 50/50. Again, we've got a problem where we need to convert from restore completed in 70.93 milliseconds for the CS Prod. I don't know what that is. So what we're going to need to do is we're back to where we wanted to be. Okay, now convert DP to PX in Android. One of the difficulties I often have with this is you need to have a context object to do this right, and how could something with 792 upvotes be wrong? Note, the above is converting dips into pixels. The original question. Ah, yes, that is what I wanted. Man, that looks so good, except it's missing the line. It's like so close. So very close. Why is it messing up. Boy, this has been one interesting problem to solve. Oh, wait a minute. What is this? Set bounds. Setting bounds to, and we're asking for the canvas. This is the problem. This should be width in px, and this should be height in px. What is that doing? I don't really know. Let's take a look at this code. This is kind of interesting code. So this is saying, in a compat library, I want to be able to retrieve a drawable, which is a vector drawable. And then here we have our drawable. And if we are in anything less than lollipop, so if we're in an older browser, there's this thing that we need to do to get support for vectors. So I don't know what mutate or wrap is. I guess we could look that up. But how about this? This is saying I want a bitmap. I want to create a bitmap with this width and height, and goodness knows what argb 88 is. That's obviously, I mean, the ARGB is alpha, red, green, blue, and I bet that's a color profile. I bet it's saying, I bet there's like a set of color, like a color profile. I bet that's what that is. And then here we're creating a new canvas, and so that's just creating a new thing to put something on. And here we're saying that this drawable, we want to draw it onto the canvas, and then the canvas bitmap, create bitmap. Oh, when we created the canvas, we created it with this bitmap, and so when we drew onto the canvas, we were drawing onto the bitmap, and we returned the bitmap. And that didn't fix it. Man, I was so sure that was going to work. We could try setting the width to something like 80 dp and 80 dp and see if it's going to be big. It's going to be real big, but it'll be kind of interesting to see if this is a problem filling in the resource, filling in the image into the button, which I would hope that we still have the same error, but the button's gotten really big, or if the image gets resized along with the button. So that'll be an interesting debug data point there for you. Okay, I got nothing, and the show is almost over, so let's worry about this later, I guess. Gosh, it's so close though. Man, that really bugs me because it's so close, and let's at least do this. Let's figure out how to convert DP into, this is an important thing to know how to do, and so I'd probably be inclined to put this in a utility, but for now, private static int, and we'll call this dp to px. Get resources. Let's not make this static. Complex to, what was the original? Complex unit dip. Gosh, there's got to be, that just doesn't look right. This method converts DP to equivalent pixels depending on device density. That looks so much righter. Righter is a technical term, of course. good. Okay, display metrics, okay. And then this constant is deprecated. Use android.util.display metrics density enum directly instead of this field. Didn't like it anyway. Density default. And what is the problem with that? Operator divided by cannot be applied to operands of type float and whatever the heck a display metrics density is. That's a pretty reasonable complaint. Presumably we need to convert that to an int or something. I'm going to F12, and if I F12, it's going to decompile the source, and I'll be able to see what it actually is. And in this case, it's a display metrics density default, which is a 160. Okay, so it is actually an int. So we ought to be able to get by converting that to an int. Okay. Chances are very good that will work, and we can, instead of this, say dp to px, and we actually wanted this to be about probably 40. What's wrong with that? Oh, you want a context object. Come to this. And we can 40 dp would be tempting, but you can't have variables in C# starting with numbers, so we'll call this dp40, which is, yeah, that is dp40. This is unhappy because that's an int that it wants, and I just passed in a, cannot convert from float to int. Oh, just do it, it's fine. And that is, what? No, it wanted an int. It already is a float. There we go. And in case you don't know this already, in C#, if you take a float and you cast it to an int, it just truncates the last half of that and drops it all off. So that is almost guaranteed. That is going to be something along the lines of 80. That's going to be 80 pixels or something like that. Haven't even gotten to iOS this time, huh? Well, that did kind of what I wanted, right? That is 40 pixels, and I'm wondering if I just want to see it work again. This is going to be the weirdest episode ever, but image button here, we've got a height, we've got a width, and tempted to go back to Android source compat equals at drawable / divide, just to watch this thing. Did it ever work, or did something else weird happen? Because that just shouldn't be happening. If we go into divide dot, what is that supposed to be? Source compat, main activity, XAML. This used to be Android : source compat. It's app : source compat. Which corresponds to a namespace that you don't use very often, but it's up here. XMLNS app, Android, APK, Resauto. I think we just got another error. No? One failed. Why did one fail? It just failed. There was no error. Man, don't you hate that? Don't you hate when there's an error and they won't tell you what the error is? Just like didn't feel like it. Didn't feel like doing that thing you just asked me to do. Such is development, right? You get these errors like exceptional exception. Isn't that the whole point? You got an exceptional exception, isn't it supposed to be, there it is again, too big. But it did work at least, so we haven't broken anything. What happens if that's at 80 dp, right? What happens if we say, show this thing at 80 dp? Maybe the line isn't thick enough. Ooh, I like that theory. All right, show it to me at 80 dp. We're gonna make it really big, and I bet that's what the problem is. If that does turn out to be the problem, then we will want to go into divide.xml and stroke width for this guy. Maybe we could bump that up. What? What is going on? Look at that. Do you see that? Right at the point with this thing. Look at that. There's a little red dot. There's a little red pixel. A little red pixel right in the middle there, and it rendered everything except that line. That is just so weird. All right, so let's do a fill color, because maybe that's what the problem is. A fill color of black, and oops, and then the fill color of this guy. That's what the little red dot was. Okay, so maybe that's what the problem is. We now got a fill color, we got a stroke color, we got a stroke width, stroke lined cap, round. There is no line. This is just, oh yeah, no, that's right. Around, round, right, yeah, that's fine. And the path data. This is gonna work. This is gonna work, and the problem was it didn't know what to do with an unspecified fill color. I'm telling you. This is the magic. This is the magic that is Android development. You're probably at this point like, man, is Vector really worth it? It's not usually this bad, I swear. All right. Come on, big money, big money. I'm just gonna call this a show if this works. The red dots disappeared. We got that going for us. I am flabbergasted. Flabbergasted. This is 2,2906, and then it goes down to 56. 56? No, yeah, 56 would be all the way on the right hand side, almost on the way on the right hand side, and 29 would be halfway down from 60. Maybe I should not have messed around with. Maybe I should have just taken this code as is without modifying it. What did this used to be? This used to be within px was not a parameter, and so that could be that I just messed it up. Let's try. Let's try. Drawable.get intrinsic width. And that was in the create bitmap. intrinsic, come on now. Yeah, IntelliSense died. No, I cannot think without IntelliSense. There we go. Whew. I was just gonna have to call it a night if I lost IntelliSense. I'm sorry, but I just do not have the skills which are required. 0, 0, this would have been canvas dot width and height. Okay. We're now not using those, and if this works, there's 12 minutes left of this show, and I really want to solve this problem, but I also want to get to tinting. Okay, but we got to get this. We got to get this image in there and smaller, and maybe let's try just a little bit more googling around. We're going to say render vector in drawable in what's it called? An image button. Android. Using vector icons in Android. You're not doing it right. Android scales the image from the closest possible match. If you provide only one very large bitmap, no. No. Alright. What else can we do? Just switch on it. Just give up and switch on over to iOS. Let's give up and switch on over. With 10 minutes to go, we're going to do tinting in iOS. Are you ready? This is tinting in iOS. So, as you may recall, in our last episode in iOS, we had, before things went terribly wrong in Android, we had an image inside of the asset catalog, and it was called the divide image, and it was a nice old raster image that wasn't giving us a lot of difficulty like we were getting in Android, and we retrieved that in the main view controller here, and maybe I can get divide. Here it is, divide. Add a divide button. This is good. And so here's what we did. We did this divide button dot set image to the image which we retrieved from the bundle. Now that bundle image was black, and it was a black image, and it would be really nice if we could. Oh, hey, you didn't see that. If we could go back to the easy layout, mobile calc, it would be nice if when we click these guys, it should have been doing something. When I click that, I would like it to turn white anyway. I think white would be good. That's what we do on the Windows calculator anyway, I think. When I click those, well, When I mouse over it, it turns white, and when I click it, it should turn white. So what I think we want to do is tint this thing, and we could try just tinting it without even worrying about the on-click. So let's do that. We've got this image, and to do the tinting thing, we're going to do image dot something mode, rendering mode, image with rendering mode. And the rendering mode is always template, which means we're now supporting templating, and that's going to return a templated image, or maybe we could call it a tintable image. And this tintable image is what we want to use instead of that. And now tintable image dot tint dot wait a minute. Okay, I remember we can do it in the button itself, I think. Now that that's a tintable image, we ought to be able to say divide button dot tint color equals UI color dot orange, of course. And with any luck, when we build this for an iPhone simulator and an iOS 6, something along those lines, with any luck, we'll have something work well tonight, and we'll get out some tinted orange, and then the trick will be on tap. How do you change the tint color? And this is compiling. It is building. And while that's building, I'll leave that up front here so you can see it. And I might just start preemptively doing a little bit of research on UI. Man, that's taking a long time to compile. UI button image tint. UI button image tint for UI control state. Wow, is that still building? Man, that's been building for a little too long. Don't like it. I don't like it at all. Oh, you can do it directly on the button. UI button dot set image for state tint color. Yes. Yeah, that is what we've done already. Exactly that. None of those people were actually answering the question, how do I set the UI button color tint UI button? It automatically color masks to match the... what is going on? Build, cancel. Is nothing going to work correctly tonight? Is nothing going to work? No. 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 Nothing is going to work. I am really tempted just to kill Visual Studio. The fact that I said build, cancel, and nothing happened. The build must be stopped before the solution can be closed. I told you to stop it! This does happen, I'm telling you. Yes. that's easy. UI button image set tint for state. Nope. Manually setting UI button state. No. Does nobody do this? This seems like such a common thing to do. Setting a UI image on a UI. Come on. Oh. UI button image set tint on tap. I know how to tint it. I want to do it on tap. Alright, we're just going to have to do it with events. Yes, we can improve our startup performance by disabling ReSharper. I'm aware of this. This show is technically almost over, but I'm not willing to give up without any wins at all. There's going to be at least one win, and it's going to be this thing is going to display as orange. This is great. So we have this building icon, building, and nothing's happening. Visual Studio appears to have frozen. That's fantastic. All right, I'm going to move my research window over here. Oh, there we go. UI button on touch up. I mean, the thing is, I already know what the event is. I'm trying to fill space because everything is going wrong. It's gonna be orange. It's gonna be orange. Wait, it's gonna be amazing. There we go. Yay. Tinting. We've got tinting, but we can do better. We can do better than that because I've added a divide button. Divide button. Whoop. Divide button dot. Nope. Okay. We've got an add events in here. Maybe it's not called add events. Maybe it's called. Oh. Sometimes when I'm doing this, I call these methods add events and remove events or something, but that's okay. We want divide dot. What's it called? Divide dot touch up. Touch up inside would be touch. Is there a touch down? Touch down. Yeah. We have a touch down. Button divide on touchdown. Sounds good. And I bet we want a touch up. I don't know the difference between inside and outside. I bet we want both. I think the difference between the inside and outside is there's you can have a little border and you can tap on the outside of the border. And right now, if we do on touch down, it will be including the border thing and it won't include. Let's just try and break it. I bet we can break this and find out exactly what doesn't work. So we've got two new methods, and now, not later, is the right time to do the unsubscription before I forget. So that I do not commit the cardinal sin in iOS or Android by not unsubscribing. So now when we divide, button divide, of course, dot tint color on, now this is on touch up inside, so that's when you're moving your finger back up. So we want to return that back to black. And when you touch down, we want it to go to white. And we're going to get rid of the orange. There's a much cleaner way to do this, but let's just see what happens. And I'm telling you, this time it's just going to zoom. It's going to zoom by and it's going to work. And it's going to be incredible. Oops. Yes, don't care about Android. Android, go away. Blue. Blue? Oh, doesn't that look nice? I'm pretty happy with that. Now, curious, can we get it to... Oops. No, I guess that was good enough. We can't get it to break. I was curious if I could just put the cursor right at the very edge, if I could get that to break. We do need to fix the blue and probably, and that's kind of a commit point, right? Ignore all that Android stuff that wasn't working. I'm going to commit the main view controller. So tinting is working. I'll push this right up for any live viewers who want to get into that. That looks good, right? So what we did here was we did a image with rendering mode to retrieve a brand new image that is tintable, and then we set that into the button, and then we did a couple touch down and touch ups, and we just changed the tint color. So tinting is working, except it's blue. On load. And I think a much nicer way to do this would be tint color equals. This kind of code bothers me, and it smells to me anytime that you're like setting something twice. If you're setting something twice, I just feel like you're doing it wrong. And so a much cleaner way to do this for me would be to have a private void set button tint and bool is pressed. And then what we want to do is convert is pressed into a color. So we have a bar color equals, and if is pressed, then, and maybe you're wondering why I say this, but it just, I've seen so many bugs in my lifetime, in almost 20 years of doing software development. I've seen so many bugs where this gets called and you're expecting this to get called, but it doesn't, or things just get out of sync. Like this is it's a very clean way of doing things because it only ever gets set once, and it's, what's the word, special word for it, something you can call it multiple times and it's not a big deal. Is pressed. If it is pressed, we want it to be white. Else we want it to be UI color black, and then equals color. So on touch down is pressed is true. and is pressed equals false. And then the solving of the blue problem happens when we set button tint. Maybe we can do this up here. Set this would be a lot cleaner too if it was static. And UI button and we had a divide button as a parameter because we're going to want to reuse this capability for other things later. And that is much cleaner. And now we're setting it to is pressed equals false. And I don't know if you find that hard to read, but is pressed false reads a lot better to me. And that way we just say what it is we're trying to do. We're trying to set the button tint of the divide button to is pressed false. And that reads like a sentence to me, which is really nice. I really do like it when code reads like a sentence. Just clean up some unused usings. I'm going to hit F5. We're going to see that it's not blue to begin with. The tinting is going to work beautifully. And we can call that a night. So we're going to refactoring and removing blue and blue initial tint color because we didn't specify a tint color. So if you do tinting and you don't specify a tint color, bad things happen. And there we go. That is looking very nice. Refactoring and remove initial blue initial tint color. Done. All right. All right, there we go. Well, thank you for bearing with me through this challenging episode number 7, where very little went right, but we did get tinting in the end in iOS, and that is something to be excited for. So thank you for joining. Have a wonderful week. Please subscribe in the YouTube channel and ping me on Twitter at @lpritchar if you have any comments about the show, directions you'd like to go. And for example, I'm thinking next week about just doing a primer on 3D printing because it's something I'm excited about. If you're excited about it too, let's do it together. Let's do something fun. So that is all I've got. Thanks for joining and have a wonderful week.